She was used to treating black customers like dirt, never facing consequences for her racism. But today would be different, because the man she spits on isn't just any customer, and when she finds out who he really is, her world will come crashing down in ways she never imagined. The chime of the restaurant doorbell barely caught Chelsea's attention as she wiped her hands on her apron, her expression twisting in annoyance. Another customer, another distraction. She had been working at Millstone Diner for 5 years, and if there was one thing she had grown tired of, it was dealing with them. She glanced toward the entrance and immediately felt her stomach twist. A black man, dressed sharply in a navy blue suit, a confident air about him. Chelsea rolled her eyes and muttered under her breath, "Great, just what I needed." Her co-worker, Amber, glanced at her. "Chels, don't start. Just take the order and keep it moving." But Chelsea had never been one to keep it moving when it came to black customers. In her mind, they were beneath her, unworthy of the same courtesy she gave others. And worst of all, they expected respect. She sauntered over to the table, her fake smile barely concealing her disgust. "What can I get you?" she asked in a tone so flat it was practically an insult. The man, unfazed, gave her a polite smile. "I'll have the steak, medium rare, with mashed potatoes, and a coffee. Black." Chelsea scoffed. "Figures." The man's brows lifted slightly. "Excuse me?" "Nothing," she muttered, snatching the menu from his hands. But as she turned to walk away, something inside her churned. It wasn't enough. She didn't just want to give him bad service. She wanted him to know he wasn't welcome here. When she brought out his coffee, her hands hovered over the cup, a wicked thought crossing her mind. With one last glance around to make sure no one was looking, she pursed her lips and spit straight into the dark liquid. The thick glob of saliva mixed into the coffee, swirling for a brief moment before settling. Her chest swelled with satisfaction as she set it down in front of him, her lips curling into a smirk. "Enjoy." The man stared at the cup for a moment, then looked up at her. His eyes, there was something about them, a quiet strength, a knowing. But instead of reacting, he simply gave her a small smile and said, "Thank you." Chelsea walked away, feeling victorious. She had done it again, put another black customer in their place. What she didn't know was that this time, karma was watching, and karma never forgets. Chelsea strutted back behind the counter, her smirk unwavering as she watched the man lift the coffee cup to his lips. "Go ahead, drink it," she thought, barely containing a snicker. But then, he stopped. His hand hovered in mid-air, the cup inches from his mouth. Slowly, he set it back down, his expression unreadable. Chelsea felt an uneasy twinge in her stomach. Something about the way he moved, the way he knew, sent a chill down her spine. He didn't call her out, didn't yell, didn't storm to the counter demanding to see her manager. Instead, he calmly reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and began typing something. Chelsea narrowed her eyes. "What's he doing?" Amber walked up beside her, nudging her with an elbow. "Hey, that guy. I think I recognize him." Chelsea rolled her eyes. "So what?" "No, I think he's someone important." Chelsea scoffed. "Please, he's just another—" Before she could finish, the restaurant doors swung open. A group of sharply dressed men and women entered, their gazes scanning the room before locking onto the man sitting at the table. Chelsea's stomach dropped. Amber sucked in a breath. "Oh my God. Chelsea, that's—" But Chelsea already knew. She had seen his face before. On the news. On magazine covers. Jonathan Cole. A self-made millionaire. A businessman known for uplifting black-owned companies. A major figure in the industry. And most importantly, a man with power. Chelsea's blood ran cold. Jonathan looked up from his phone, locking eyes with her. But there was no anger in his gaze. No smugness. Just quiet, undeniable authority. The group of professionals approached his table. One of them, a woman in a sleek black blazer, leaning down to whisper something in his ear. He nodded before finally speaking, his voice calm yet commanding. "I think I'll need to have a conversation with the owner of this place." Chelsea's heart began to pound. The owner? Oh no, oh no. Her palms grew clammy as she frantically searched for an excuse, an escape, anything. Because in all her years of treating black customers like they were beneath her, she had never once been caught, and she had never imagined that the person she spat on would be someone with the power to turn her entire world upside down. Chelsea's breath hitched in her throat as Jonathan Cole's words echoed in her mind. I think I'll need to have a conversation with the owner of this place. She forced a nervous laugh, trying to steady herself. Maybe he's bluffing. Maybe he's just trying to scare me. But deep down, she knew better. Amber's face had gone pale. Chelsea, what did you do? Nothing, Chelsea hissed, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't do anything. Amber's eyes darted to the coffee cup still sitting on Jonathan's table, the untouched liquid, the slow swirl from where he had set it down. And then, she looked at Chelsea again. Her expression changed. She knew. You spit in it. Amber's voice was laced with disgust. Keep your voice down, Chelsea snapped, panic creeping into her tone. But it was too late. The restaurant had fallen into an uneasy silence, employees whispering, customers glancing over, sensing that something was very, very wrong. And then, just when Chelsea thought it couldn't get worse, the door to the back office opened. A stocky man in his 60s stepped out, his eyes scanning the room before they landed on Jonathan. Russell Boyd, the owner of Millstone Diner. Chelsea felt her stomach twist into knots. Russell's face immediately brightened when he saw Jonathan. Well, I'll be damned. Mr. Cole, I didn't know you were dining with us today. His voice was warm, respectful, the kind of tone Chelsea had never used when addressing black customers. Jonathan stood up, adjusting his suit jacket with a slow, deliberate motion. I wasn't planning on making a scene, Russell. He exhaled softly, then turned to glance at Chelsea, pinning her in place with just a look. But I think you should be aware of what some of your employees are doing. Russell's brow furrowed. What do you mean? Jonathan motioned to the coffee cup. Russell's gaze followed, landing on the untouched drink. His confusion deepened, until Amber, hesitating for only a second, stepped forward. She spat in his coffee. The words hit like a gunshot in a silent room. Russell's face drained of color. What? Jonathan's voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath it. She spat in my drink, and from the way she treated me when I walked in, I have a feeling this isn't the first time she's done something like this. A stunned hush fell over the diner. Chelsea's heart slammed against her ribs. Russell's gaze snapped toward her, disbelief and fury battling in his expression. Tell me this isn't true, Chelsea. Chelsea's voice cracked. She could feel the walls closing in, the weight of every bad decision, every smirk, every cruel remark crushing her all at once. He's lying. Jonathan arched a brow. Am I? Chelsea looked around frantically, searching for someone, anyone, to back her up. But Amber wouldn't meet her eyes. The other waitresses had turned away. Even the cook in the kitchen was shaking his head. No one was going to save her. Russell let out a slow breath, his face now unreadable. Then, in a voice that was low but filled with finality, he said, Get out. Chelsea blinked. What? You're fired, Russell growled, his tone razor-sharp. Get out of my restaurant. No, wait. Chelsea felt desperation claw at her throat. You can't fire me over him. Over him, Russell repeated, his voice rising. I should have fired you a long time ago. But today you humiliated me. You humiliated this restaurant. His hands curled into fists. You don't work here anymore. Now leave. Chelsea's world crumbled. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Jonathan watched her, expression unreadable, before finally saying, Karma works fast, doesn't it? Chelsea felt a lump lodge in her throat, because for the first time in her life, she had to face the consequences of her hatred, and it burned. Chelsea stumbled out of Millstone Diner, the bright afternoon sun glaring down on her like a spotlight. Her breathing was ragged, her head spinning. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. But it was. She had been fired, in front of everyone, humiliated by a man she thought was just another customer, just another black man she could treat like garbage and get away with it. Not this time. The door swung shut behind her, the sound like a final, cruel punctuation to the life she had just lost. Her hands clenched into fists as she turned around, staring at the restaurant she had worked at for 5 years. This was my place, my job, and it's gone. Because of him. Anger boiled inside her, hot and poisonous. She yanked out her phone, her fingers shaking as she typed out a furious text to her friend Marissa. Chelsea, you won't believe what just happened to me. That black guy from TV or whatever just got me fired. Over nothing. She hit send, pacing as she waited for a reply, her chest rising and falling with uneven breaths. Seconds ticked by. Then her phone dinged. Marissa. Wait. What black guy? Chelsea. Jonathan Cole. That business guy. I just lost my job because of him. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then reappeared. Chelsea frowned. Why was Marissa hesitating? Finally, the message popped up. Marissa. Wait. What do you mean because of him? What did you do? Chelsea's grip tightened around her phone. Chelsea. Nothing. I mean, I might have spit in his coffee or whatever, but… Marissa. Chelsea. The way Marissa typed her name, just that, with a single period, sent a jolt of dread through her. Marissa. Please tell me you're joking. Chelsea scoffed. Chelsea. Are you seriously taking his side? No response. More dots. Then nothing. Chelsea swallowed, her anger twisting into something colder. Marissa had never ignored her before. She scrolled through her contacts, tapping on another friend's name. But before she could send a message, her phone vibrated with a notification. Her stomach dropped. It was from at Newswire Today, a major news page. Breaking. Millionaire entrepreneur Jonathan Cole disrespected at local diner. Waitress allegedly spits in his drink. Chelsea's blood turned to ice. She clicked the post. Her eyes scanned the words, the growing number of comments, the hundreds of likes. Then she saw it. A video. She tapped it with trembling fingers. And there she was. The footage was grainy, taken from a cell phone, but it was clear. Chelsea standing by Jonathan's table, the smirk on her face unmistakable, her leaning over his coffee, her lips pursing. Chelsea's stomach flipped. Someone had seen. Someone had recorded. The comments were already piling up. At Real Justice Girl, fire her, immediately. At Truth Seeker 99, so sick of people like this getting away with it. At Love Wins 24, disgusting. I hope she never works again. Chelsea's breath came in sharp gasps. Then another notification popped up. A Jonathan Cole official has posted a statement. With shaking hands, she clicked on it. A simple message, but one that sent terror straight through her chest. Hate has a way of circling back. Let's hope this is a wake-up call. Chelsea's phone slipped from her hands, clattering onto the pavement. Because this wasn't just losing a job. This was losing everything. And for the first time she realized, karma wasn't just watching. Karma was here. And she wasn't done with Chelsea yet. Chelsea stood frozen, her breath coming in shallow gasps as the world around her spun. Her fingers trembled as she snatched her phone off the pavement, gripping it so tightly her knuckles turned white. No, no, no. This can't be happening. But it was. Jonathan Cole's statement was everywhere. The video had gone viral. She was being called out by people who had never met her, people who didn't know her side of the story. Her phone kept buzzing. More notifications, more comments. And then, a call from her mum. Chelsea hesitated before answering, pressing the phone to her ear. Mom, What the hell did you do, Chelsea? Her mother's voice snapped through the speaker, thick with fury. I just got a call from Aunt Denise. She saw you on the news. They're talking about you all over social media. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is for our family? Chelsea's heart clenched. Mom, listen, it wasn't that bad. Not that bad. Her mother's voice rose. Chelsea, you spat in a customer's drink. And not just any customer. Jonathan Cole. Are you out of your mind? Do you know who he is? He has connections everywhere. You didn't just lose your job, Chelsea. You probably just ruined your entire future. Tears pricked at Chelsea's eyes. I didn't think. That's the problem. You never think. A silence fell between them, thick and suffocating. Then her mother's voice lowered, tight with disappointment. I didn't raise you to be this kind of person. Those words hit Chelsea harder than anything else. Her lips parted, but before she could say another word, her mother hung up. Chelsea stared at the phone in her hand, her chest tightening. Then, another notification. Her bank app. Her jaw clenched as she opened it, dread settling in her stomach like a rock. The automatic deposit she had been expecting from Millstone Diner. Cancelled. Her final paycheck. Gone. A fresh wave of panic crashed over her. Oh my God. How am I supposed to pay rent? Her thoughts spiraled. She could call her landlord, ask for an extension. No. He barely tolerated her as it was. She could ask Marissa for help. No, Marissa wasn't even answering her texts. Her hands shook as she scrolled through her contacts, searching for someone, anyone who might have her back. But one by one, the realization sank in. She was alone. No job, no support, no way to fix this. And the worst part, for the first time she felt it. The shame, the guilt, the weight of what she had done. She had spent years thinking she could treat people however she wanted without consequence. But karma had other plans. And now, Chelsea was the one being spit out and discarded, just like she had done to so many others. Chelsea sat in her tiny apartment, the only light coming from the dim glow of her phone screen. She had spent the last few hours refreshing her notifications, watching as her name spread like wildfire across social media. Every news outlet, every viral post, her face was there, frozen in time, smirking over Jonathan Cole's coffee cup. Chelsea Carter, the waitress who spat in a black man's drink. Her name wasn't just trending, it was infamous. She curled her knees to her chest, trying to drown out the sound of her phone vibrating against the table. She had silenced her calls hours ago, but the texts kept pouring in. Some were from old friends. Marissa, you really messed up, Chels. I can't be associated with this. Lindsay, my job literally just sent out a company-wide email about workplace discrimination using you as an example. Are you kidding me? Some were from complete strangers. At Call Out Chelsea, you deserve every bit of this. I hope you never work again. At Justice for All, you humiliated him. Now it's your turn. Chelsea threw her phone across the couch, her throat tightening. This isn't fair. But deep down, a small voice whispered, isn't it? She had laughed at the pain of others, smirked when customers of color walked out feeling lesser than when they walked in. She had enjoyed knowing she could get away with it. Now, she wasn't getting away with anything. Her stomach growled, pulling her out of her spiraling thoughts. She hadn't eaten all day. With a heavy sigh, she stood and grabbed her purse, slipping on a hoodie before stepping outside. The crisp evening air felt heavier than usual as she walked to the convenience store down the block. She kept her head down, hoping no one would recognize her. But luck was no longer on her side. The moment she stepped inside, she heard a whisper, then another. Two teenage girls near the snack aisle pointed at her phone, whispering to each other. One of them snickered. Oh my God, it's her! Chelsea's pulse spiked. She grabbed a frozen meal from the freezer and hurried to the checkout, keeping her eyes fixed on the counter. The cashier, an older black woman, stared at her as she placed the item down. She didn't say anything at first, just scanning the box slowly before meeting Chelsea's gaze. Chelsea could feel it, the recognition, the judgment, the disappointment. I know you, the woman finally said, her voice steady but firm. Chelsea's throat went dry. I just want to pay and go. The woman didn't move to bag the item. Instead, she leaned forward slightly. You're that waitress, the one who thought disrespecting a black man was funny. Chelsea's stomach twisted. Look, I don't think we serve people like you here. The words hit Chelsea like a slap. She blinked. Well, what? The woman crossed her arms. You heard me. We don't want your money. Chelsea felt heat rush to her face. Are you serious? You can't. The woman nodded toward the door. You can leave now. Chelsea opened her mouth to argue, but the weight of the moment crashed down on her all at once. This was what it felt like, to be dismissed, degraded, dehumanized, just like she had done to others. Her hands trembled as she turned away, the eyes of the two teenage girls burning into her back as she pushed the door open and stumbled into the cold night. Her vision blurred with angry, humiliated tears. For years, she had thought she was untouchable. Now, she was nothing, and for the first time in her life, she finally understood what it felt like to be treated as less than human. Chelsea sat on the edge of her bed, the darkness of her apartment pressing in on her. The only sound was the hum of the old ceiling fan above her, rattling slightly with every slow turn. Her stomach twisted with hunger, but she couldn't bring herself to move. The rejection at the store had been a slap in the face, not because she couldn't buy a frozen meal. She could find another store, but because, for the first time, she felt what she had spent years dishing out, and it hurt. Her phone buzzed again, dragging her back to reality. With a shaky breath, she reached for it. More missed calls, more messages, and then one from an unknown number. Unknown. You're a disgusting human being. I hope you rot. Her breath caught. She clicked out of the text, but before she could put her phone down, another one. Unknown. You deserve everything that's happening to you. Maybe worse. A cold shiver ran down her spine. Then another notification. A new post from Jonathan Cole. Her thumb hesitated over the screen, but curiosity got the better of her. She clicked it. It was a video. Jonathan sat in an office, his expression unreadable, but his voice was firm. I've spent my life building businesses, not just for myself, but for people who were told they didn't belong, people who were treated like they were less than human. And yesterday, I was reminded that no matter how much success I have, there will always be people like Chelsea Carter, people who believe that respect is something I have to earn instead of something I already deserve. Chelsea's heart pounded. I could let this go. I could move on, pretend this didn't happen, but that would be a disservice to every person who has ever been humiliated just for existing. Jonathan's eyes darkened slightly. So no, I won't just let this go. I've already spoken with my lawyers. The restaurant may have fired her, but there are deeper issues here. And if my platform can expose them, then that's exactly what I'll do. Chelsea's blood ran cold. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through the comments. At Justice for All, yes, hold her accountable. At Speak Truth, systemic racism needs to be exposed. She's just one of many. At Tasha Lynn, this isn't just about her. This is about all the people who get away with this every day. Chelsea's chest tightened. This wasn't going away. Jonathan wasn't just making an example out of her. He was digging deeper, exposing the restaurant, the culture of racism that she had been a part of, and people were listening. She dropped the phone onto the bed, burying her face in her hands. For years, she had thought people like Jonathan, successful black men and women, were lucky to be where they were. Now, she saw the truth. They weren't lucky. They had to fight for what others were simply given. They had to prove they were worthy of the respect that she had always taken for granted. And in her arrogance, she had thought she was untouchable. But karma had caught up, and there was nowhere left to hide. Chelsea sat in the dim glow of her apartment, her knees tucked against her chest. The weight of everything crashed down on her like an avalanche. Her job, gone. Her reputation, destroyed. Her future, uncertain at best, dead at worst. She had never thought it could end like this. That one moment, one smirk, one act of hatred could unravel her entire life. But it had. Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it. She had spent hours reading the comments, watching her name spread across news outlets, seeing her past co-workers distance themselves from her. Even Marissa, her best friend, had unfollowed her on social media. The isolation was suffocating. The hate was overwhelming. And yet, for the first time in her life, Chelsea couldn't call it unfair, because she deserved it. She knew that now. All those years of treating black customers like they were less than, laughing about it behind their backs, spitting in drinks, rolling her eyes when they asked for the same kindness she so easily gave to others. She had built this for herself, and karma had simply collected her debt. She closed her eyes, inhaling shakily. A thought crept in, one she had been too proud, too bitter, too angry to consider before. What if I change? The old Chelsea, the comfortable Chelsea, would have brushed it off. She would have convinced herself that she was the victim, that the world was just being too sensitive, but that Chelsea was gone, destroyed by the same hate she had once carried so carelessly. She reached for her phone, her fingers hesitating before opening the search bar. Slowly, she typed, "How to Unlearn Racism." A long list of articles, books, and resources filled the screen. She swallowed hard. This wouldn't erase what she had done. It wouldn't undo the pain she had caused. It wouldn't make Jonathan Cole, or anyone else, forgive her. But maybe, just maybe, it was a place to start, because karma had given her a lesson. Now, it was her choice whether she learned from it. And this time, for the first time, Chelsea wanted to do better.